Suicide is a devastating public health issue. It requires, no, it demands our attention to save more lives. The numbers are going the wrong direction in Massachusetts, as suicides have increased from 631 to 638 to unofficially 680 in 2017, which was certainly impacted by opioids and other addictions. Good morning, I'm Steve Mongeau, Executive Director of Samaritans, and I thank all of you for being here today. We are here to prevent suicide. The song you just heard, written by Travis Meadows with Liz Rose, is based on something Meadows heard at a recovery meeting that changed his life. After years of struggling with cancer, alcoholism, drug addiction, and incarceration, he heard something that helped him find peace and hope in his life. Serenity is not found in a calmer sea. It's found in the building of a better boat. As someone in recovery for several years myself, that message really resonates. Kenny Chesney, whose voice you heard, released his version of the song as a metaphor to his experience rebuilding the Virgin Islands after the devastation of Hurricanes Irma and Maria. Lines from the song include, "I breathe in, I breathe out. I got friends to call who let me talk about what ain't working, what's still hurting, and I let it go around the waves I can't control. I'm learning how to build a better boat." The message of hope here just gripped me. It's so in line with the work we do at Samaritans that it became part of our program. A thank you to John Cole and the team at Cole Creative for introducing the song to us. Samaritans is here to help build better boats. You know, sometimes headlines capture devastating events that can trigger a sense of hopelessness among us. I'm sorry if some of the captions I share today trigger some of you. But it's important to understand that tragedies and cultural events can contribute to vulnerabilities and thoughts of suicide. At the time of the Boston Marathon bombing, Samaritans saw a 100% increase in calls. In the aftermath and destruction from Hurricane Maria in 2017, suicide in Puerto Rico increased 29%, with 83% more people saying they were contemplating suicide, and an overwhelming 246% increase in calls to their crisis centers. Just last summer, the losses of Kate Spade and Anthony Bourdain triggered a 60% increase in calls and texts across the country to crisis centers, including Samaritans. More recently, 2 students ended their lives by suicide in Parkland, Florida, as the 1-year anniversary of the tragic shooting there took place. And the father of a young student lost in Newtown, Connecticut, ended his life by suicide this past March. In these stories, post-traumatic stress disorder may have influenced the behavior and decisions made by those we lost. We know it contributes greatly to the loss of our veterans. There may have been weeks, months, or years of build-up to that action, but they reached the point where suicide became a viable option. Although huge complexities surround each suicide, according to the New England Journal of Medicine, 70% of the people who survived a suicide attempt disclosed that the final decision to take action was within 1 hour of their attempt. In their Means Matters works, Harvard University School of Public Health summarized over 90 studies, and they found and documented that 93% of attempt survivors, in fact, did not later die by suicide. Most never attempted suicide again. For me, this information confirms that the work being done by Samaritans is saving lives, and suicide can be prevented. Samaritans is here for you if you are struggling with depression, despondency, or loneliness. Samaritans is here to listen to where whatever challenge you may be facing. You will not be judged if you reach out for help. You will be accepted. In the words of one caller, I have a panic disorder, and talking to someone who isn't a friend or my partner is so helpful in keeping me from hurting myself. The volunteers at this hotline are consistently so warm and understanding. They bring me back to the world around me. Samaritans is truly special. My personal friends in both high school and college, my coworkers, my wife's cousin and her family friend, my brother-in-law, and my sister Kathy all died by suicide. I wonder if any of them had called the helpline. Could they have let it go around the waves they couldn't control, just long enough to find a little light, a glimmer of light in their darkness? Could they have found that hope that more than 300 volunteers on Samaritans helplines help people find every day? I'll never know, but Samaritans is here 24/7 to talk or text with those who reach out. We have been able to double the number of people we support over the past few years, and our tech service is introducing us to thousands of young people. To keep up with growing demand, we'll need another 100 volunteers by the end of this year. So if you believe that people can help people and are willing to listen to others, check out our website and explore a volunteer opportunity. We will also have over 17,000 participants in our suicide education programs this year, with a huge focus on increasing the high school classrooms we visit across the state. Someday, suicide prevention workshops might be mandated in high school classrooms, which, along with gun safety legislation and Samaritans Helpline, should help us keep suicide rates in the Commonwealth among the lowest in the country. We are also expanding our free workshops in the workplace, so please reach out to us about bringing a workshop to your place of business or your community. Our expansion in services is due in no small part to the support from our partners. Examples include Community Consulting Team's social media strategy that has helped us reach more people in need. The awareness campaign led by the MPTA has been phenomenal and is not only assisting us in serving more people, but attracted more than 50 volunteer inquiries last year. Their ads, along with media attention from Chronicle's story of hope beyond suicide, Channel 5's 5 for Good segment, and radio and newspaper exposure, not only help us grow services, but also attract volunteers. At Samaritans, we also recognize the need to support those who have loved and lost someone to suicide. In our Survivor to Survivor network, volunteers visit people in their homes or another comfortable location to help them learn how to live after suicide loss. We also help suicide survivors gather to share their stories at our Safe Place meetings. I know firsthand how healing it can be to share your suffering with someone who can identify with you. Although it may not have drawn the headlines of the tragedies I referenced earlier, losing my sister, Kathy, to suicide was a shock to my very being. My family dealt with our own private PTSD. We still mourn her loss and her loud laughter at our family gatherings. It's been over 30 years, but I recently found myself tearing up in my office when I was simply reviewing a Samaritans flyer about a grief after suicide workshop presentation that we hosted in Walpole. You see, one of the last conversations I had with Kathy was driving down Route 1 in Walpole on the way to my brother's house just a few days before she died. It really jolted me, but it also reminded me that I so loved who she was. While everyone in my family has had their own grief journey, Samaritans has helped all of us in some way. We've rallied around Kathy's team for 12 years now, each fall, to show our gratitude. That's where we can share stories about how Kathy lived and not stay lost and how she died. If you lost someone to suicide that you loved, Samaritans is here for you too. With the help and support of all of you, Samaritans will continue to grow to meet the demands of our communities and continue to prevent suicide. Together, we can all build better boats. Thank you. Thank you. So please listen and watch as some of our Safe Place attendees share their stories of loss and hope with you. Thank you.